Hello, everyone. So I'm Healy and I'm here today with Amanda Healy for Shape Your Future's first workshop, Building the Perfect LinkedIn Profile. So Shape Your Future brings you industry leaders and career building workshops so you can hear from professionals and their careers and paths and work on building and improving your own. So you can find our website with the link in the comments to find out more information about Shape Your Future and for details and notifications for our other events. To hear about our latest updates and information, you can also join our subscription list. Without any further ado, let me pass it over to Amanda.
Hey guys, thank you for joining me during this crazy COVID time. Hopefully this is a nice shakeup to what a lot of us are dealing with in our day-to-day, whether that's school or work or lots of Zoom meetings or WebEx meetings. Today will be a really fun and interactive session. I like to call it a Kanye West format because I mean, interrupt me at any time. Put your question into the chat. We'll be taking questions throughout, and then we'll also have a dedicated chat at the end. So let me go ahead and share my screen. I don't believe in death by PowerPoint, so I have just a few slides for you. And then we're actually going to get into a live demo where I walk through my own LinkedIn profile and show you how to optimize your own. So you may want to bring up your own LinkedIn profile on your computer or even on your phone so you can follow along. All right. And hopefully you can see my main screen. Shaylee, I don't know if you can just pop on and let me know if you're seeing the presenter mode or if you're seeing just the normal presentation.
Yep, we can see your screen. We can see the whole presentation.
Just the slide or like the preview at the bottom that shows the entire thing?
We see just the slides.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right, cool. So what are we going to cover today? I'll start with a little bit of housekeeping, intro, background, and then we're going to talk about personal branding because while this is about LinkedIn, the basis of this presentation is really around building your brand. So what does that mean? Why is it important? How do you define your own? And then we're going to use LinkedIn to do exactly that. In my opinion, LinkedIn is the most powerful platform for building your brand online. And like I mentioned, I'll show you the top 5 most viewed areas and things that you can do in this course, as well as tomorrow, next week, the week after to optimize that. At the bottom of this screen and on my slides, you will see my Twitter handle and you'll also see my email address. If you need anything, these are the 2 best ways to reach me. Because I teach on LinkedIn, my inbox on LinkedIn is very, very backed up and I can't respond as quickly as I want to. So these are the best places to reach me with questions or anything that you need for your organization. So for housekeeping, we're recording this session. If you've got to drop at any point, you've got something else you got to get to, don't worry about it. We'll have the recording for you. I geek out when you live tweet me or live Instagram me or live post on LinkedIn about the presentation. If you find something helpful, if you find something of value, mention me at the bottom at Amanda _Healy on Twitter, and then Amanda Healy on LinkedIn. Ask questions when you have them. Don't wait until the end. You can pop them right in the chat as they pop into your own mind. And then I mentioned, if you need help with your own profile, I have a partner who helps write your profile for you. I also lead sessions like this for organizations, companies, groups, you name it. I'm doing them all virtually. Okay, so hi. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Amanda Healy, and I kind of have about 4 or 5 different jobs. So by day, I run brand marketing for the IoT team at Cisco out on the West Coast. And I'm based in Boston, by the way. You can tell, well, I guess you can't tell because I don't have a background, but it's pretty dark here. We're on the East Coast. And my second job or my side hustle is public speaking. So before the world of Corona, I used to travel around the world speaking at conferences and events to people just like you and teaching them how to build their brands, teaching them how to use LinkedIn and other social media. I teach across the entire spectrum of social media. So sometimes I teach social media classes for sales teams, sometimes for students, sometimes for executives, you name it, I probably do it. So I want to get right into the content because I have a ton to cover today and we just have an hour together. As I mentioned, we're going to start with personal branding. So the first question I always get is, well, what is a personal brand? Because I'm a marketer by day, the easiest way for me to think about personal branding is this. I want to give you this scenario. Picture you are on the show Shark Tank and you have the sharks in front of you behind their little desk and you are pitching a product. And the product is yourself. What would you say to those sharks? What makes your product different? What makes your product stand out? Why would people want to invest in your product? When you get to the heart of this is what your personal brand is all about. It's the value that you bring to the marketplace. And maybe the marketplace is the job opportunity landscape. Maybe the marketplace is your industry. Maybe the marketplace is your school or your class or the group that you're part of. What is your value? What value are people taking away from you? What are your strengths? And I actually have a few quotes that I really like about personal branding. The first one: in today's digital world, your personal brand is how you're seen, understood, and evaluated based on the image that you project, the content that you create, and the messages that you convey. What does this mean? This means that before we meet someone in real life, and especially right now during COVID, we are more likely to meet them online. Meaning, if you send me an email, one of the very first things I'm going to do is copy and paste your name into Google and see what comes up. So you're going to get a lot of homework items during this session. I'd love for you to write them down so you have them nearby. Your first piece of homework is super easy. I want you to Google yourself, and I want you to take a screen capture of what appears. Is it your LinkedIn profile that's coming up? Is it somebody else's LinkedIn profile? Is it your Facebook account, your Instagram? And then click over to images and see what images and photos are coming up. Maybe someone tagged you on Facebook and they have a public account, so you're still tagged in that metadata of that photo. Maybe there's a really old photo of you that doesn't represent you. Maybe there's a lot of photos of people who aren't you. Take a screenshot of that as well. Why? Because we have, in order to change and evolve our personal brands and our online brands, we have to take inventory and stock of what our personal brands are today in this moment. The other piece I will say that ties into this quote is that everything that we do online either adds to our personal brand or detracts from it. Maybe you made a comment on someone's post. Does that add to your personal brand or detract from it? Maybe you posted an image or a video. Is that adding to your personal brand or detracting from it? I don't say this to scare you. I just say it because it's a fact that our brands today are largely built online and then supplemented by how we show up in person. So what I'm saying is build a strong first impression online through the headshot that you choose, through the LinkedIn profile that you build, through the content that you push out there, and then match it when you show up in person. I think it's very jarring to people when we show up differently in person than we do online. And I actually mean that physically as well. So if you're using a very out of date profile photo, and then I meet you in person and you don't look like that person, all of a sudden, whether I realize it or not, I don't trust you. It's a crazy effect called cognitive dissonance. I like to think of it as the catfish effect, when our expectations and our reality do not line up. So that's your first piece of homework, is go online, Google yourself, screenshot it, and put it in a Word doc and save it, so that once you go through some of the things we're going to talk about today, you can start to see, okay, how am I changing how I am showing up online? One other big thing, it's a lot easier to control how we show up online than how we show up in person. When we shake somebody's hand, they immediately form some sort of snap judgment about how we look or how we act or how we walk, whatever it may be. Versus online, you're choosing the photos that you put there. You're choosing what you're writing for your individual descriptions. Another quote that I really like about personal branding is this: with the development of social media and an increasingly individualized society, the brand you build around yourself is perhaps the most important way to stand out. There are a lot of people in this world. There are a lot of people even in your industry or in your class or in your school. How are you going to stand out? And the answer is just this: building a strong brand, building something that is memorable, unforgettable, and that I can take something away from. Just like everyone else, every single person wants to know what's in it for me. So build your brand as a value-driven brand. What that means is, what value do I, Amanda, or I, Healy, provide to someone who is connecting with me or being part of my network or being a part of my life? And then I like this quote as well because it talks about individualized. I almost think of my social media channels as part of a media strategy, meaning if I'm a product, I've got a different strategy for my TV ads, then I do, I don't know, my billboards, then I do my magazine ads. All of these are different pieces of media. The same goes for your social media channels. You should have a different strategy for your LinkedIn versus your Facebook versus your Twitter if you have one. And we'll get into how to do that. Okay, so in a nutshell, your personal brand is a mix of how you see yourself and view your brand today and how others see you. Right in the middle is your personal brand. So have your next piece of homework, and it's a bigger one, it's optional and you don't have to do it, but those who have done it have found a lot of value from this. What I would challenge you to do is to set up a free survey. You could use a tool like SurveyMonkey, totally free, easy, simple to set up. And I would put like 5 questions, something like, first of all, how do you know me? Friend, family, classmate, colleague, whatever it may be. And then from there, what is the first word you think of when you hear my name? And then maybe the second one, what is the biggest strength that I have? And then something like, what makes me unique? Ask these questions and make the survey anonymous, and you may be very, very surprised to see the patterns and trends in which people respond. And the reason I say to you to ask that question about how the person knows you is because perhaps you show up very differently at school or in the workplace than you do to your friends and family. And that will be valuable information for you too, because you'll want to start to bring pieces of that together. The other advantage of this survey is that sometimes our biggest strengths are so natural to us that they're just like breathing. We don't even notice them. For example, when I did a survey for myself many years ago, I found that one of the top words that came out was energy. And that's not something I ever would have thought. Positive energy, high energy. And now that I know that's viewed as one of my top strengths, I can leverage that as part of my brand. And it's become a big part of my brand. So I'd really encourage you to take me up on this. If you need help, let me know. Like I said, I have my contact info below. But those that have done it have found a lot of benefit in helping them to start to craft their brand around the things that people are seeing in them and the strengths that they're seeing in them. Okay, so why is this important? When you have a strong brand, you build trust and credibility. This goes for retail brands or product brands as well. Think of a product that you absolutely love and a brand that you absolutely love. Chances are you trust in them end to end. You know, if you order customer service, maybe it's the quality of the product. The same goes for your personal brand. When you have a strong one, people trust in you and you have innate credibility. Increasing your value. When you have a strong brand, people know your strengths, they know what you bring to the table, and they want you to be part of their team or part of their engagement or part of their experience because they know you're valuable. Gaining confidence. I can't understate this one. When you have a real sense of who you are and your strengths, and you're not afraid to talk about those strengths, you innately gain confidence, and it will show up in the way that you present, the way that you speak to others, in the way that you conduct yourself online and offline. Differentiation. How do you stand out? Personal branding. This is when you center in on what your story is and what your personal brand is, immediately you stand out because a lot of people just aren't doing this. They're not investing time in themselves. They're not trying to figure out what their brand is and how to demonstrate it online. This is one of my favorite ones, being yourself and becoming authentic through your personal brand. The first word in that statement, personal branding, is personal. And that's why this is so difficult, because we really have to ask ourselves, who am I? Who do I want to be? And how do I want to communicate this online and offline? Becoming the go-to resource. So part of my personal brand is storytelling and social media, and I do own that in my day job. I own our social media team, but regardless of that, because it's part of my personal brand, all of a sudden groups from all over Cisco, we have 70,000 employees worldwide, groups I've never even heard of are reaching out. Hey, could you help train our sales team on social media? Or hey, could you train our executive leadership team on how to use Twitter? All of a sudden you'll find that you'll have opportunities that you never even fathomed because you're attracting them by having that strong brand around your strengths. And then straight into it, opportunities. So we have a wide range of people on this WebEx or Zoom, a mix of students, professionals, later stage professionals, early stage professionals. So I want you to frame the word opportunity as it relates to your own situation. Is it a job opportunity? Is it an internship opportunity? An opportunity to join a club or organization? All of these different types of opportunities, maybe even for a startup or a small business, all of these are available to you by building a strong brand online. And I've seen them come to life in my own experience, as well as some of the people that I coach and mentor. And I always like this quote too, regardless of, if you're in sales or not, or if you're just part of a company or part of a workplace, we are the living, breathing embodiment and face of that brand, as well as our personal brand. So when someone in the workplace has a strong personal brand, that has a halo benefit of affecting how the brand that they work for is perceived. For example, if you meet someone that is just a phenomenal, strong branded person who, I don't know, say works for Google, and all of a sudden your perception of Google is elevated as a result of your interaction with that individual. Okay, so how do we do it? These are the types of questions you're going to want to be asking yourself. And again, this is being recorded, so if you don't get all of these written down, totally fine. But ask yourself, what type of content am I going to be posting? Will it be photo content, video content, just text? Will it be my own content, or will I be resharing others, or is it a mix of that? What are your values? How are you going to get them across? What do you want people to perceive out of the content and brand that you're creating? Who is your audience? Who are you looking to attract? And this ties hand in hand with this one. What are you looking to achieve? Are you looking to gain a new job opportunity, to get accepted into a school you dream of going to grow in your career, to change career paths, all of these things, to be an influencer, whatever these are? Ask yourself this question first. And from there, ask yourself, well, who do I need to reach and touch online, in a non-physical sense? How can I win the hearts and minds of the people who will help me achieve my goals? Those are your audience members. That's who you should be targeting, because without them, you won't be able to achieve your goal with your brand. What are you most knowledgeable about, or what would you like to be most knowledgeable about? Maybe this is a question that you add to that survey that we discussed, because again, maybe the thing that you know the most about is so natural to you, you just never think about it. So that would be a good one to include in your 360-degree survey monkey. What tone of voice would you like to use? I speak to you guys just the same as I speak to my friends, my family, my coworkers. I am one and the same, online, offline, and I use colloquial language. I use pop culture references, and I bring this to life in my social media channels so that when someone meets me in person after following me somewhere, the best compliment I can receive is, hey, you're exactly how I imagined you to be. That means I'm showing up authentically online and offline. How will you communicate your message? How often are you going to communicate? And so another piece of homework I would give to you, and I would like you to write this one down, and it's not really an optional one. I think it's a strong one to build a habit. I would like for you each and every day on your phone or on your calendar, work calendar, to put in a private meeting for yourself at whatever time you choose. Maybe it's later in the night once you're out of school. Maybe it's in the afternoon when you go and grab a cup of coffee. And I want you to say something like, build your brand, or work on LinkedIn, or whatever you want to phrase it. It's going to be private, so only you are going to see it. But I will tell you, when that reminder comes up on your Apple Watch or Fitbit or your phone or whatever, all of a sudden you're reminded, okay, I need to just take 15 minutes to spend on building my brand online. Because the reality is, no one is going to do this for you. Your parents, your teachers, your boss, your teammates, no one's going to build your brand online for you. You have to do it. And if you build that into your day-to-day schedule, not only does it just become habitual, it becomes fun. It becomes like, okay, cool, I'm going to take this list that Amanda gave me and I'm going to knock out just one today. Don't try to do it all at once. Don't carve out one whole day to do all the things I'm going to ask you to do, because you'll never do it. You'll procrastinate and you'll keep kicking yourself like, I got to do it. Just take one little thing at a time. So maybe the thing that you do tomorrow is the Googling yourself. And then as we get into a lot of the homework items I'm going to cover, I'll tell you if they're short and easy. I'll also tell you if they'll take a little bit more time. So start to build your schedule so that you're dedicating the time to build this for yourself. And then finally, who are you and what's your position in the industry, as well as who would you like to become? Where are you looking to go? Where do you want to go in the next year? Where do you want to go in the next 5 years? It's okay to not know the exact answer, but have a rough idea of where you're at now and where you would like to be. Okay, so as I mentioned, I am going to take you into demo. I'm going to show you, how to make this work for you in your schedule, why and how are you going to take this into your online brand, and then where to really focus on your LinkedIn profile, the 5 top most viewed areas. So I'm going to switch out of presentation mode, and I'm going to go into my tabs here. Let's see, stop share, and where are we here? Safari. Okay, cool. And like I said, if you are on your laptop or have your phone handy, pull up your own LinkedIn profile, because like I said, I will show you in real time how to make some of these changes. Okay, so I want to start with my number one pet peeve, maybe number one pet peeve in life even. I absolutely cannot stand it when people say, oh, I love LinkedIn, it's your online resume. It is not your online resume. If you are taking your resume and uploading it to LinkedIn and giving yourself a pat on the back, you are doing it wrong. You are doing it just like 80% of LinkedIn users, and that is no way to stand out. The good news is it's really, really easy to stand out on LinkedIn, and I will show you how to do that. So you're thinking to yourself, well, if it's not my online resume, then what the heck is it? LinkedIn is your personal website. It's free. You're able to tell your story. And while your resume tells me what you do, your LinkedIn should also tell me what you do, but tell me why you do it and show me how you do it. This is a multimedia platform that has so many capabilities beyond being an online resume. And I will show you exactly what I mean by that. I want to start at the very top of your LinkedIn page. So I have a number of examples that were submitted to me that I hope that we can get to by the end of the call so I can show some optimizations. But here is your first profile piece of homework. And this is an easy and a fun one, so mark it down. In the next couple of days, maybe by the end of week, you could put it as your goal. I would like you to change your LinkedIn cover photo. So your cover photo is right here. It's what you see. I was speaking at a big women's conference in California. That's your cover photo. And what I will show to you is when I move into my Twitter profile, you will notice it is the same exact cover photo and it's the same exact headshot. And this is on purpose. So here's a tip and a trick. Whatever channels you are using for professional purposes should be branded the same look and feel. And the reason for this is that by doing so, in this very simple way, you start to drive trust and credibility for your brand. On Instagram, there's a reason that many influencers use the exact same filter or preset for all of their content because it looks aesthetically pleasing, it looks professional, and it automatically assures us that this person has credibility, whether they do or not. It's a very tiny trick of the mind that you can leverage to your advantage if you have a Twitter account or if you're using another social media channel for professional purposes. For me, my two professional social media channels are LinkedIn and Twitter. I don't brand my Instagram or my Facebook the same way. I don't use those for the same professional purposes as these channels. So your piece of homework, get a LinkedIn cover photo. You're asking yourself, well, what am I going to put there? First of all, I'll tell you that 75% of LinkedIn users did not change their cover photo. It's just that really ugly blue constellation. Then I hate that background. So I beg of you, at very minimum, change it to anything. I don't care if you change it to polka dots or leopard print or whatever you like. Automatically, you will stand out because you have a cover photo and 75% of people do not. What I would challenge you to do is put in that placeholder or that temporary cover photo for now, and then really think to yourself, well, how can I use an image to convey my brand? I talked about how my brand is all about storytelling. I teach people how to tell their stories, such as in this webinar. At my day job at Cisco IoT, I am constantly telling the story of our customers, our solutions, of use cases. So mine being about storytelling, this cover image is me in a nutshell. It's me at my best, and it's the biggest embodiment of what my brand is all about: helping others, speaking up, empowering people to tell their stories. So I actually did, I want to say 50% of the homework for you, meaning, or this particular homework item, meaning I Googled it, right? So this is a great place to start. I typed in LinkedIn cover photos and I went into the images, and this is like your Pinterest of sorts. This is your place to get ideas. So you're going to see a lot of city skylines, a lot of desk shots. And what I would say to you, I would challenge you, instead of using this generic desk shot, why don't you take an overhead picture of your own desk and obviously make it aesthetic and make it look nice, but at least that's your proprietary content. That's your actual desk. Or instead of using a cityscape, why don't you grab a picture that you took of your city or your town or the place that you spend a lot of time and really make it personal, bring it home to you. Again, over time, I'd love for you to think of a more creative and personal way to express yourself in the cover photo. But to start, that is more than enough to get you to stand out on this platform. So I talked about how I would like to show you the top 5 most viewed areas of your entire LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn does a study. They use retina tracking goggles on volunteer participants. It's a study of their users. And so they're able to see where does the person spend the most time on the profile and where do they go first, second, third, and so on. The number 1 most viewed area of your profile and the most amount of time spent on your entire profile is on your headshot. And this is disappointing for many reasons because it's very shallow. It has nothing really to do with our work. But since LinkedIn's research shows us that this is the most viewed area of your profile and the longest amount of time spent, you have to get this right. And by getting it right, I don't mean that you need to have a Kim Kardashian level glamour shot. I mean that you've got to have a recent headshot that has a very muted background. So either a solid color like mine does, or use portrait mode and have the background blurred, or brick is a great background, fence, like a wooden fence, stone, the list goes on and on. But here's the key. Do not take a photo of yourself that has somebody else or something else in the background that is going to detract from your face and your image. Because if we are thinking of ourselves as products, flash forward to the start of this conversation, if I am a product, my headshot is my logo. It is the literal face of my brand. So this should be a representation of my best self, but also an accurate representation. So mine, again, is me in a nutshell. I was speaking at an event and the photographer told me a dad joke, and I love dad jokes. So I laughed and she snapped the photo, and immediately I knew that was going to be my headshot. It doesn't mean that you have to have a photographer. Most of us have pretty decent cameras. All I would ask of you is go outside. Indoor lighting, as you can see from my camera here, it's dark here. Indoor lighting is never a good look. Outdoor lighting is going to be your best friend. It's going to soften. It's going to give you a nice kind of professional look to your photo. So I would recommend shooting around until you get something that you're really comfortable with, that you like, that you feel is a good representation of yourself. Smile. Even if you're not someone that really smiles all the time, smile, because they've done a ton of research, and we tend to connect with people on LinkedIn that are smiling because they seem approachable, they seem friendly, they seem like someone we would want to have as part of our network and part of our life. So the reason I'm harping on all of this so much is because it's incredibly important, because it's the first place that people look on your profile. It's the most amount of time that they spend. And when you go to connect with someone, all they will see is your name, your photo, and your title. Now I'm going to show you a ninja trick, and you can only do this on your desktop. It's super cool for multiple reasons, and it's very lesser known about LinkedIn. So pay attention. So on the top right, you're going to see edit public profile and URL. And you can't do this on your phone, as I mentioned. Click that. It will open a new tab, and all of a sudden you can see what your profile looks like to someone who has never connected with you. It could be someone that doesn't even have a LinkedIn profile. This is what shows up if someone clicks on your LinkedIn profile via Google. So you're thinking, okay, I get it, but why is that such a big deal? This is such a big deal because when I've run workshops for companies, I often go in and I'll take, kind of like this workshop, I'll take people's profiles who are volunteers and I will optimize them in real time. And 9 times out of 10, when I get a group of people, we find that a group of employees has their headshot set to private and they have no idea that they do. So I'm going to show you how to check and make sure that your headshot is not set to private. And some of our examples I will show you later in this class actually do have no headshot, and maybe there's a set to private. So long-winded. What you would do, I'm going to go back, is you would click edit public profile and URL. And then on your profile picture, you will see something that looks like, I'm sorry, whoever I'm picking on, hold on. I'll show you the exact image. It'll look like this, a gray circle. It might not have the open to work, but it'll just be an anonymized person. And then you'll think to yourself, well, that's not right. I have a profile picture. And here's where you're going to discover that you have it set to private. On the right, at the bottom, you're going to see this part that says edit visibility. Under here, you have profile photo. I want you to make sure that it's set to public. A lot of people, an example was I taught a workshop at Walgreens corporate headquarters in Deerfield, Illinois. And in that workshop, we found that 5 people had set their profile picture to only be visible to their network. Meaning if I wasn't connected with you, I don't see your profile picture. And they've done a study, if you don't have a profile picture on LinkedIn, 80% of users are not going to accept you as a connection. So you have to have a profile picture. Again, you could put something as a placeholder. Maybe it's a photo you don't love, or maybe it's a year or 2 old. Put it for now, and then over time, in the next month or so, next couple weeks, another homework item, go outside and shoot a new profile picture. Okay, so you're going to check that it's set to public. And I say public instead of all LinkedIn members, because you really want it to show up on search. So when you hit public, all of a sudden you're controlling your image on Google, on Bing, on any other search network. The metadata of your name and your profile is being tagged to the picture that you have chosen. And that's a very powerful thing for building your brand. And then under here, I would just double check that all of your stuff is set to public. This is a best practice. There shouldn't be anything on your profile that you're looking to hide. You should want to have it all open. That will help build your brand. And then the final ninja trick is up at the top. So when I went to look at some of the profiles I have open, I noticed that a lot of people had not customized their URL. So your URL is how you show up or how you get to your profile. And what you can do is hit this pencil icon and put your name here. And if your name is not available, you can do an underscore, you could do a dash, but do not have numbers in here. Why? Because this ranks very highly for search engine optimization, or SEO. And ideally, you want to have just your name in here, or as close to it as possible, so that you are tagging your brand, aka your name, to your profile. Meaning that when people search for you on Google or even through LinkedIn, whatever it may be, you are controlling the fact that your profile shows up for that. This is also a great place to have this, because you can take your URL, it's called a custom URL. Let me hit cancel here. And you can copy and paste that and put it everywhere, in your Twitter bio, in your email. If you're a corporate user and you have Salesforce, putting it in there, maybe you put it on your Instagram. But this is a really easy way for people to find you. And when you meet them, to say, hey, add me on LinkedIn. It's linkedin.com/in/Amanda Healy, put it on your business cards. Really, really powerful way to drive as many views to your LinkedIn profile as possible, because it's a numbers game. The more views you drive to your LinkedIn profile, the more messages you're going to get, the more connections you're going to get, the more opportunities you're going to get. So I'll show you an example. Let's see, I have to pull the screen down, and there, right here was one of the examples I had pulled for later use. But you'll notice, see in the URL, so he has his name, but then he has all these random numbers. That tells me that he hasn't customized the URL. So this is a great piece of homework for you to make sure you're on your desktop and go ahead and change your LinkedIn URL to reflect your name. Okay. Moving on, your next most viewed area of your LinkedIn profile is what's called your headline, right here, right under your name. And if I'm thinking of myself as a product, my headline is my tagline. It's that thing that you just can't get out of your head. It's the thing that you think of right away. For example, Nike, just do it. What's your tagline? What's the value that you're bringing? With the Nike example, just do it. It's like, all right, well, their brand is about, getting stuff done, pushing you to be your best self, empowering you, giving you the tools you need to succeed. What is your brand all about? This will typically default to whatever your current title is. So mine should say head of brand marketing at Cisco IoT. It does not, because you can edit this to say whatever you would like it to say. And it's also a very powerful place for search engine optimization. So here's your next piece of homework, and make sure you wrote down the one about getting a custom URL if you don't have one already. This is a longer piece of homework. I would give yourself until the end of next week to do this. Again, this is just suggestions. You can do whatever works for you. But I'd like for you to take a piece of paper and write down 10 to 15 keywords that you would like to be known for. So mine are things like marketing, keynote, social media. I would write down branding, whatever you really want to be associated with, the key kind of pillars of your personal brand. For example, if you were building a website about yourself, what would you want to make sure you show up for when people Google? So maybe you're building a website, and you want to make sure you show up for social media speaker. Well, that should be one of your key terms. So once you have the list of 10 to 15 key terms or keywords, I would like for you to create 4 different headlines. They can be any variation. So maybe I start with social media speaker. Maybe I put in, I'll show you how to do that. So you're on the LinkedIn homepage and you can go to right here, who's viewed your profile. And then take a screenshot of this. It'll tell you how many profile views have you had in the last 90 days. You can see some of your spikes, all of the different trends, and put that in the same Word document that we've been kind of chronicling everything in. The reason I say this is that's your benchmark. That's where you're at today. And you won't know how different headlines are impacting you unless you know kind of what stats you had before you started changing things. So keep that. That's your early piece of homework. Do that today if possible, just because you're probably going to make changes after this workshop or throughout the next couple of days. So you really want to get a most accurate representation of where you are at before you started making changes. Anyways, so flash forward to, I don't know, say you start the process this Friday, and at 2 p.m. your time, you swap in a headline. Mark it down and then let a week go by. And then go back to your statistics and take a screenshot of that and put it into the Word doc with the headline that you use. Repeat that process for the next 4 weeks. And again, you can use any kind of timeline that works for you. Maybe you want to do every 2 weeks. Maybe you want to do every month. I call it Amanda Healy science. It's very fuzzy science, but it's our best way to really understand what is resonating and what is bringing people to our profile. Because again, on your page, that headline ranks really, really high for SEO. It's also one of the only things that people will see when you go to connect with them on LinkedIn. So how are you going to entice them or compel them to add you as a connection, or at minimum to go visit your profile? If I were to read head of brand marketing at Cisco IoT, maybe I would click. Maybe I'd be interested to go and view that. But when I read something that's multifaceted or that, shows me what kind of value they bring to me, then I absolutely will click. Or maybe it's a little bit interesting or worded in a different way. How are you going to compel them? So an example would be, I was teaching a sales team for a tech company in Boston, and I was working with an account manager. And so his title, or headline, I should say, showed up as territory manager for North America. And if I saw that as a connection request, I would absolutely not connect with that person. I don't want to be sold to. I have no interest in connecting with a salesperson. But what his company does is actually really interesting. They help people use AI in their search on their websites. Fascinating stuff. The more I learned about it, the more I actually was interested in connecting with him. So I suggested to him, well, instead of putting territory sales manager, why don't you put something like, I help companies realize the value of AI in their search. And yeah, that's a little long. You could shorten it. You could try 4 different variations, but automatically you're getting the lift out of a very hot keyword, which is AI. Maybe you change it to artificial intelligence and try that out. But now I'm interested. If that came into my connection request, I'd be a little bit more interested to go and click and view that person's profile. So in a nutshell, that's your bigger piece of homework so far. Create the list of 10 to 15 keywords. Out of that list, create 4 headlines and then test them over the next 4 weeks. Make sure you screenshot your analytics to see how are your profiles increasing, decreasing, what messages are coming in, all of those stats. Okay. Your third most viewed area of your profile is your summary. So I'm in my public profile. I'm actually going to go into my edit mode of my profile here. Okay. So what you'll notice right away is your summary will only display your first 3 lines. The person can click to see more, but most times people will not click to see more. They're only going to read, those first 3 sentences, unless it's so interesting that you cause them to click to learn more. So I will tell you, I have seen I don't even know, maybe over 1,000 LinkedIn profiles I have reviewed or come across. It's probably more than that. And many of them have the same exact thing for summary. First of all, it might be written in the third person, which I actually have an example of later on. This is not a good look, and I'll tell you why. And I don't mean that in a mean or discouraging way whatsoever. What I will say to you is that human beings want to connect to human beings. When we read something that is written in the third person, it sounds like the book cover, the end book of a book that has the author, that's written in the third person. It doesn't seem approachable. It honestly comes across, maybe it comes across differently to other people, but for most people, it comes across that maybe that person takes themselves too seriously. Why didn't they write it in the first person? So write your summary in the first person. We want to connect with you as a human, not you behind, like a screen, so to speak. The next piece, I read the same one over and over and over again for summary. I'm a seasoned veteran, blah, 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 blah. My skills include, I know that we are proud of our accomplishments, but no one wants to read this. People want to read about you. They want to know your story. I talked about how your LinkedIn profile should not just tell me what you do, it should tell me why you do it. So I'd like for you, as you're writing your summary or rewriting it, picture you and we're getting a coffee or we're out to dinner or we're grabbing a drink, and I say to you, Healy, tell me about yourself. You are not going to say, well, I have spent 3 years doing this, this, and this, and my skills include, no way. You are going to tell me what drives you, what your passions are, what you've been up to and where you're going, and maybe some of your hopes and dreams. And that's how I'm going to connect with you. I'm going to connect with that vulnerability, that story of who you are. And so that's where I challenge you. This is your biggest homework that you will get throughout the entire session. Start to write your summary as a story. And it doesn't have to be like a straight up story like, like mine. My first gig was at a lemonade stand and I'm the same kid, quote unquote, here as I was back then. It doesn't have to be like that. It has to just get to the heart of who you are. And there are some really cool examples of that out there. I actually should have pulled some up, but I will be rewriting my own summary to talk about storytelling and the power of story and why it compels me and why I love helping others tell their story. When you get to that heart and that kind of core of your personal brand and you share it in your summary, it's an incredibly powerful way to stand out. Because like I said, most people are using the same exact summary or no summary at all, and nobody is reading it. We're just swiping up and not checking it out, because that list of keywords that you created, make sure those are showing up in your summary, because the more times you use the same word within your profile, the algorithm of LinkedIn will start to associate your profile with that word. So for me, I'm going to want to use social media over and over and over. I'm going to use marketing over and over and over, so that when someone is searching for a marketing leader or a social media speaker or a webinar speaker, my profile is going to rise to the top of that search within LinkedIn and Google. Okay, I want to move on to the fourth most viewed area of your profile, which is actually the most surprising. It is your skills. So down here under skills and endorsements, you can list up to 30 skills to show up on your profile. But what you'll notice is only 3 appear here. So many people don't realize that you can change the order of the skills that are displaying. So I'll show you first how to do that. You would hit this edit icon. And here's where you would see all of the skills that you've listed out. If you don't have skills listed out, then that will be another piece of homework, and I'll show you how to do that in a moment. But here's how you would change the order. So the bulk of my career has been in demand generation. I'm no longer in demand generation, but I have a lot of endorsements for it. Into demand generation, I'm going to unpin one of them, and then I'm going to pin this. And then from there, you just drag and drop. And now this skill will show up as first for my skills. It will allow people to endorse me for that skill. Let me click out of this. Okay. Now, if you don't have skills or you don't know what is listed there, here's where you would start. So LinkedIn will suggest skills based off of your profile. This is a great place to begin with. You can just click and add as you go along. Another great place to start is in your current role. whatever job you were hired for, even if you are like a cashier at a grocery store while you're in school, whatever your job is, you will have applied to something, and there would have been a part of that application that says required skills or something to that extent. What are the qualities that they were looking for when they hired you into that? And here's where you would put those. And again, you can add this to the survey that I suggested at the top of this call. You could say, you know, what are my greatest skills? What is my greatest skill? I like the term skills because maybe there are multiple ones that you could include here. So why are these important? These rank super highly for search as well. So for example, for social media, I think I have something like 300 endorsements. And what that means is that when someone types in the term social media on LinkedIn and even on Google, my LinkedIn profile pops up. And that has led to opportunities for speaking, job opportunities, webinar opportunities, podcast opportunities. Again, things I never even expected or thought that I would be doing have come because I've built the search component into my profile. It's a really, really powerful way for you to stand out and for you to be found online. So take advantage of this. This is a homework item for sure. It's actually a very easy one, in my opinion. You can change or edit this at any time. What I will say to you though, if you are changing or editing and you're deleting, unfortunately, when you delete a skill, you will lose all of the people who have endorsed you for that skill. Now, you might be asking yourself, what does that mean, people that endorse me? What it means is that when you log on to LinkedIn, it'll say something like, does Amanda Healy know about social media? Yes, no, or ignore. And when people hit yes, they become an endorsement for me for that particular skill. So if you're looking to get endorsed for skills, maybe you don't have any endorsements right now, which is totally fine. Start endorsing other people, and then LinkedIn will actually serve your profile back up to them and say to them, hey, does Amanda Healy know about product marketing? And you'll start to see those come in. Another great way to do this is if you're part of an organization or a group or even just a friend group, you guys can trade skill endorsements for yourselves to start getting the ball rolling. And of course, do not endorse someone for a skill that they do not have. You are literally stamping your face on that person in their profile for that skill. So you really want to make sure that they do have that skill. But it's a great place to get started and to get it starting to show up for others to endorse you. And then finally, the fifth most viewed area of your profile is what I call the Yelp of your profile. It's the recommendations that people give you for your roles. So you're going to want to aim for at least one for each of your roles. Even if these are roles that you've done in the past, if you have to revisit them and reach out to someone to get a recommendation, do it. It's a very, very powerful way for us to get third-party credibility on our work. But here's something I would tell to you. When I hire people to my team, I love to look at the recommendations that they have given. I love reading how others describe value in people and how they see that value. And it also looks altruistic to see that they're giving back and they're giving recommendations in addition to receiving them. So take a look at your profile. Have you given any recommendations? Is there someone that you would like to give a recommendation to? Again, same sort of feedback, only recommend people that you truly, truly would recommend. The other cool thing that people don't realize, I recently did this. I have 40 recommendations and you can archive them. So as you go down, you'll see where it says show. Those are the ones that I'm showing, but I also have a lot that I'm not showing. So as I go down, I cleaned out, hidden recommendations. I cleaned out a lot because right now, no one wants to read 40 recommendations. They don't even want to read 15. But if I clean it down to the ones that make the most sense, then that is more valuable for my network and for people who are looking at my profile. So regularly clean this out. The nice part is they don't delete the recommendations. You can bring them back at any point. Okay. That's it for your top 5 most viewed areas of your profile. The only other thing I want to address is the other piece of your profile that's not in the top 5, which is kind of funny. It's the more resume part of your profile. It's all of these different roles. So my best practices and statement to you, I actually recently touched mine up, is to use bullet points under your individual roles and make sure that you have a description for every single role that you have had. It could even just be 2 bullet points. That's fine. I would recommend 3 to 5. And what I did is I actually cleaned up every single one so that they don't wrap onto the next line, because they've done research that when the human mind starts reading the description, they obviously read left to right in English. And then when it starts to wrap, we stop reading. So Be concise, be to the point, and get your bullets or your pieces on the same line. So as you're editing this, let me scroll down. You won't be able to see, if it's wrapping. You'll have to kind of just start to type, and then hit save, and you'll see it wrap on here. But it's a great way to make sure that you're really getting across what you want to get across in a short and snappy manner. The other thing you'll notice is this media. So I could tell you all day about the events that I speak at and the types of things that I speak on, but it's a lot more powerful for you to instead go and watch a 3-minute, speaking reel of me. And this is where I would upload that. So even at the top under my summary, I have a bunch of media, because again, your LinkedIn profile shouldn't do it. So there were some examples in the profiles that I pulled of people, linking to the organization. So I'll show you, one person is a teacher and they link to the organization that they volunteer at. So even though you might not have media like a webinar that you did or a white paper, there's always something that you can be linking to. Maybe you're just linking to your own Twitter account, or maybe you use Instagram for professional purposes and you're linking to that. So because we have just about 10 minutes or so, I wanted to see first if we have any urgent questions. And then from there, Shaylee, I can definitely go into some of the profiles that we've pulled. So let's take a look at Q&A. I don't think we have any so far, but you tell me.
Yeah, guys, feel free to put any questions you have about like the LinkedIn profile, any of the homework she mentioned, and we can answer that for you. We want to make sure we can answer all of that.
And don't be shy. Like I said, I've worked with high school students. I've even worked with elementary and middle school students. We didn't talk about LinkedIn, but all the way to Fortune 500, CEOs, CMOs, CIOs, you name it, I've worked with them. And the questions are really similar, to be honest. Even some of the middle schoolers' questions were similar to some of the executives' questions. So don't be afraid. These are anonymous. Ask the questions that you have. Okay, so I had some brave volunteers for some of the LinkedIn profile optimizations. Again, please don't take any advice that I give you personally. It is not meant to hurt or discourage you. It is literally just to optimize your profile and nothing more, nothing less. And I will also tell you what you're doing really well. So I want to start with this profile, which I showed you guys. The first thing that we'd want to update is making it a custom vanity URL. But I'll tell you one thing that this person is doing exceptionally well. This headshot is killer. It is exactly what we look for in a headshot. Good lighting, smile, confidence, and a muted, quiet background. He's the center point of it. This, I don't think there could be a better example for a profile shot. This is exactly the elements that you want to look for. It's not too zoomed in. It's not too zoomed out. That person is the focal point of the photo. The next piece, cover photo. So this is the dreaded constellation background that I always talk about. So immediate homework here. Let's get something different there. What would be really cool is if maybe you had a team picture from, shelter in place, or like an outing that you guys did before COVID, or something to kind of show the human side, or maybe it's part of the campaign that you're working on. Overall, I'm pretty okay with the headline. This has been edited, you can tell, because it contains 2 different roles, and it has some good SEO pieces in here. So data analyst will show up really well. Python, of course, will show up really well. It's something that's very highly searched, and coding as well. So overall, I think this is a strong headline. I think you could try out different variations of it and see if you get additional views or inquiries on your profile. Okay, so going into summary, this is an example of a pretty standard, I would say, summary. This is what we see really often, like experienced, demonstrated history, skilled. All of that is going to be displayed in the latter parts of your profile. You can definitely touch on that as part of your summary, but I would instead lead, like, you're already very interesting of a profile, because I'm like, oh, what do you do in your teaching, and data analyst for a campaign, what's that like? How did you get into that? Like, these are the questions I would ask to you if we were out for coffee or dinner or whatnot. So think about that. How can I bring my story to life? I guarantee there's a lot more to you than what we see here in the experience piece. Overall, I thought that the descriptions for your individual roles were pretty good. What I would keep in mind is most people they're going to see a paragraph. I know it's a short paragraph, but they're going to see it and be like, oh, too much words, too much going on. So you might want to think about just doing like 3 short bullets. But I do like that you have media in here. here. I will say when I click on it, it doesn't go anywhere. So I think this is a broken link. So definitely get that fixed as part of your homework as well. But once it cross links to shelter in place coding, I think that will be a really, really cool thing for you. So overall, I think this is a strong profile. I think it's a strong example. Everything is largely complete. When you have every aspect of your profile complete on LinkedIn, the algorithm will serve you up 80 times more than someone that does not have their profile complete. Like it literally hides people that don't have their profile complete because it says its algorithm deems that you haven't invested the necessary time in that. So make sure that you have completed all of the aspects of it. So overall, really, really strong profile. I was happy with this, just some minor tweaks. Okay, moving over. So I'm going to try to fly through these since we just have a few more minutes. But first step, get a profile picture. And again, maybe you have one and it's just not displaying. So just make sure if you do have one that you have changed the privacy settings. Cover photo as well. And then as we move into even your headline, I realize you're a student, but you could say something like student at Brooklyn Technical High School, interested in X, Y, and Z. Like what are those subjects or topics that like you have a passion for that you want to connect with people about? Or you could say like aspiring X, Y, Z, whatever that job is that you might be thinking of. Make it interesting so that we want to engage with you. This is where it is really positive on your profile is under your activity. So I love to see when people are active on LinkedIn. It shows me that it's not a dead account, that they're interacting with others. So kudos to you on that. And then under here is where you would start to bring these out, build these out. So it's great that you have your education here. It's really great that you have your activities and societies. Excuse me. But you'll also want to list out maybe like courses that you're really interested in, or maybe there's something that you're looking to study, and build this out and give it more personality. Great on you that you've listed your languages as well. That could become part of your summary too. You know, maybe language is a passion of yours, or maybe there is a different passion that you want to bring to light. There's also a place to put hobbies in your profile. So that could be a really good spot to also add some of the activities that you had listed, such as volleyball, for example. Okay, moving on to this profile. First off, you'll notice cover photo, awesome. And what's even better is that the cover photo ties to the person's role, geologist, awesome. What I would say to you is that this cover photo looks slightly low resolution, so you'll probably want to get one that's higher resolution. And it would be cool if, I don't know if this is your own photo. If it is, then that's awesome. But if it's not, it would be cool for you to grab your own photo as well. On profile picture. So this is a good or an okay profile picture, but it's not there's a lot going on in the background. Like my immediate thoughts are like, where is he? What is that? Is that a microphone? What event was he at? Like I'm distracted. I want to just see you. And you also should not be looking off camera. You should be looking directly into the camera. Or if it's like more of a whimsical profile picture, maybe you're like looking up or like laughing or something, that's okay too. So I would say as your first piece of homework, let's revise the cover photo, get something more high resolution or something that's personal to your role or a personal picture. And then secondly, get an updated profile picture that's you. And if you don't wear a suit every day, then you shouldn't be in a suit. We want to keep it authentic. I rarely wear suits. I would never have one in my profile picture because that's just not me. So keep it authentic to how you look and act and dress in your day-to-day. Okay, moving on to your headline. I would change this to be title case. What that means is you would capitalize geologist, you would capitalize experience, you would capitalize mineral. It just comes across as more professional and more of a headline versus, you know, like a run-on sentence. Overall, this is not bad. It is a bit long. You could even think of easy ways to shorten it, like taking out A, you know, start with geologist with experience in mineral deposit evaluations. You know, like all of this is very, very long. So if these are key words for your industry, then that's great. Like I would take out generic things like strategic advice, and I would keep it very, very specific to mineral deposit, geostats, and you can even test that out. Does geostats have a better rate of people visiting my profile than geostatistics? These tiny little changes you can test out. But overall, hopefully you're not getting discouraged, because overall it's great that you have a cover photo, you have a good profile picture, and you've already changed your headline, so you're well on your way. And then here's where we get into like the third party. And you weren't the only person that had third party of the profiles that I pulled. So don't feel bad about that whatsoever. I understand that you're a doctor, and I understand that doctors, lawyers, different professionals sometimes represent themselves in a third party way, but you're also alienating. This is a kind of a turnoff to a lot of people that they're talking about themselves in the third party. You could test this out. It could be really interesting for you to write your summary in the first person and then also the third person and see what brings more profile views. But you know, often at the bottom you have please contact us. What about please contact me? You know, like reach out to me for X, Y, and Z. Give me a call to action there. But all of this is good overall. I think it's very, very interesting. I would just like to know a little bit more of the background, right? So like being a geologist, super cool, very interesting. I already want to learn more, but like, how did you get into that and what drives you about it? And where are you going from here? Or what have you done? So I think this is a good start. I just think there's another way to start to humanize it a little bit more. And then this is a great example of amazing use of media. So I love how you wrote this in the first person. It was a proud moment for me to present at the PDAC 2020 convention. All of a sudden, you're not this third party written author. I know you're not an author, but well, maybe you are, but you get it, right? You're a person and you had a proud moment and you have a huge honor here. This is just awesome. I absolutely love this. And then maybe I would change this to my project locations, but immediately I connect with you in a deeper way because you wrote that in the first person. It's such a silly thing, but there's been a lot of studies on it. Great activity here, great followers, you know, great that you're commenting and interacting. And then down here, great start in which you're using bullet points. I would keep it the same. So notice that you're using asterisks here, and then under here you're using numbers, and then under here you're not using bullets. I would center on kind of how you are going to represent that and keep it to the same look and feel for consistency. Overall, really, really strong though. You've had a lot of your information is displayed here. It's a very well built out and complete profile. So I don't think there's too much more for you to really update here. Great amount of recommendations. You've given more than you've received. So I love that. And I love the honors, publications, all of this phenomenal, really, really strong profile. I unfortunately am going to stop there because we have a few other profiles that were volunteered, but not enough time. So I apologize for that. What I will do is I'm going to stop sharing and go back to my presentation because it has all my contact information on it. I mentioned that I have a partner who helps write your profile for you. It's a really cool process. We interview you and then we write the profile in your tone of voice for your objectives for your audience. And then I also speak at events and virtual events like this. So if you need a group speaker, if you have a group of friends even that want to run something like this or a different topic in social media, you know how to reach me, email, Twitter, best ways. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Shaylee.
Thank you so much, Amanda. That information was so helpful and useful. I'm sure we can all improve our LinkedIn profiles after that. Awesome. We just had a few questions, so I will just read them out to you. So our first one is, do colleges look at the LinkedIn of student profiles?
They do, and it's a massive way to stand out. So picture, you know, a college recruiter with thousands and thousands of resumes and applications. As a person that has a couple of friends who are recruiters, they will first and foremost go to your LinkedIn profile if you have one. And surprisingly, not a lot of high school students do. So it's an immediate way to stand out. You could even do something that is so far advanced, meaning you could do a video on your LinkedIn profile. So under your summary, you could upload a video as media, and you could say something like about me and keep it to like 20 seconds or something. And it would be your pitch to the sharks, except the sharks are the college recruiters. You know, like why should they choose you for your school? What are your passions? What are you really strong at? You know, that's just another way to up level it. But to answer your question, and there was a few people who had asked, you know, is this important for a high school student? It absolutely is. Even beyond college, if you're applying for a high school internship or any kind of job and you hand me a resume and at the top it says, learn more about me, visit my LinkedIn profile with your custom URL, I'm going to put the resume down and I'm going to go straight to LinkedIn because I can learn so much more about you. Maybe we have connections in common. Maybe we have hobbies in common. I can find out, what you look like, act like, sound like, what type of content you post. And that's going to already give you a leg up on the competition, whether it's for a job, whether it's for a college submission as well.
Awesome. And then as students, if people don't have work experience, they're wondering if you recommend that they add different courses and like AP classes or anything that they take.
Absolutely. That is another way that you stand out. So of your profile, you could write, honors list or high honors, however many terms that you've had it, put everything there. If you're a scholarship recipient, put it there. If you take an AP classes, put it there. You could even put your GPA in there. When I was applying to internships while in college, I always had my GPA in there because it's an indication of hard work and studiousness. And of course, it's not a full indication of your ability or aptitude, but it doesn't hurt to show people, whether they're college recruiters or job recruiters, your skills, your abilities, and where you shine. So absolutely include that information. And then for recommendations, if you're in high school, get recommendations from your teacher. All of your teachers, maybe I'm misspeaking, but I guarantee most of your teachers know what LinkedIn is, have one themselves, and will absolutely recommend you as a student or a coach. You could go to your sports coach or your head of your yearbook. If you're part of yearbook, get that in there. Just like you would get referral letters for college applications, you can have those and available on your LinkedIn profile as well.
Awesome. And then one last question we have to close it off. How often do you recommend that someone in college or high school should update their LinkedIn profile?
As a best practice, and this is just not even for high school or college, it's for everyone. When something big happens, go straight to your LinkedIn profile and update it. It is so much easier to do it in that moment than to remember it a couple months later. So I do it myself. I mentioned that I had just updated parts of my LinkedIn profile because we closed out our fiscal year and we had some really great statistics. I immediately popped those into my LinkedIn profile. I don't maintain my resume whatsoever. If I had to pull together, an updated resume tomorrow, I would go straight to my LinkedIn and I would pull everything off from there and then pull it into the resume. So keep it as a living, breathing embodiment of your work. What I would recommend to you is you can't save old versions of LinkedIn profiles. So when I make big changes or take something out, I always screenshot it or I put like a written version of it into Word, because there might come a time later on that you're like, oh, I actually really could have used what I wrote there and now it's gone. So, and that's happened to me. So that's how I started like kind of archiving it manually, but keep it as up to date as possible. Make it be like a personal website, keep people up to date as to what you're working on and what you're achieving.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Amanda. All the information was super helpful and insightful, and we're going to come up with better LinkedIn profiles to increase their views.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. As I mentioned, I'm very reachable. You guys have my contact information. If you're on Twitter and you found this valuable, tell me what you liked. Or if you didn't find it valuable, tell me, how we could have improved. But hopefully you have a lot of homework items that will be fun, that will be easy. Like I said, just take it step by step. Don't try to build it into this whole big thing and do it all at once on one day, because it won't work that way. Trust me. But I really appreciate everyone coming. I wish you the best and I wish you health and happiness. And Shaylee, thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Thank you.